It's time to let go of the anger and pain for cheating. Hey, Larry, how are they doing? I barely had time to think, spare me, before he was next to me, interrupting my conversation with my neighbor and broadcasting his superficial amusement to the world. Anyway, it's me, Larry Jenkins. I'm a carpenter working for my old man. As I always say, the work is uninteresting, but it pays the bills. I guess that characterizes me, too. No one has ever accused me of being an interesting person, but I work hard, take care of the people around me, and pay the bills. I've always believed that if a man does that and has time after work to kiss his wife and play with his kids, he's successful. I always thought I was successful until two women told me I wasn't. Anyway, the guy who called me was Barry Roberts. He was a friend of mine in the neighborhood. It was a Saturday afternoon in July, and we were both at a party at Harper's. Summer get-togethers were held all over the neighborhood, and each neighbor took their turn, but the Harpers were one of the most popular hosts because they had an in-ground pool. Harper sit-ins always started early in the morning. The kids would show up in their bathing suits, and the parents would come with salads, desserts, and beer, just in case. Everyone went to Robert's parties, including my ex-wife. Yeah, that's right. You heard me. My ex-wife lives in the same neighborhood as me. We lived in an apartment on the edge of the community and met a lot of people. It seems crazy now, almost masochistic, but a few years after the divorce, we both bought houses in the same neighborhood because we had friends there. I was the first to move into the community after the divorce. Then, about a year later, we almost talked about it. She said, "Bill and I are looking at a house on Apple. I hope you won't have a problem with it." It wasn't a question, more of a statement of fact, but she seemed sincere. I just shrugged as if it was fate that she kept plunging the dagger into my heart, and since I wasn't inclined to discuss it further, she eventually turned and walked away. I guess you could say I'm the kind of person who holds a grudge. You see, Deb and I married young. We had just graduated high school, and I had gotten a job working for my father. I felt like I knew everything and no one could tell me anything. I had a paycheck, a truck, and a girlfriend. I was a man. Then the girl got pregnant and life got real very quickly. Beer, parties, and dancing turned into baby formula, macaroni and cheese, and diapers. I worked during the day to fulfill obligations at my job and at night to fulfill obligations at home. My wife needed help, our baby needed attention, and sex had become a distant memory. On top of all that, we were lacking sleep. I was tired, she was tired, and the baby was never tired when we wanted him to be. We barely lasted a year after the baby was born, and then I became another statistic, a divorced dad. In hindsight, I can say that it was no one's fault, and yet we were both at fault. We were too young for marriage, and we were too young to be parents. We were still kids ourselves, having sex and playing house. Anyway, Mom and Dad helped me out. I moved home and went to trade school. When I got out, I was better trained and ready for a real job. My dad put me back to work, and soon I was moving up the career ladder. We talked about me being in charge someday, but I was going to learn all parts of the company first. The other employees seemed to like me. I got some friendly, he's the boss's kid jokes. But eventually I earned their respect and the friendships became real. When I was ready, I bought a house in the neighborhood where I once lived, renovated it, and started thinking that maybe I was ready to try marriage again. That wasn't why I came to the party that day, but I suppose it was partly because of that. You see, about 6 months before that, I had met Julie. We had become friends, started dating, and things were getting serious. We hadn't had the talk yet, but I had a feeling it was unspoken and would happen soon. You know what I mean, right? It's, are we serious? Are we exclusive? Where is this going? So I'm standing there with a beer in my hand when Barry calls out to me, "Hey, Larry, how are they doing?" I turned around, smiled, and raised my beer in greeting, hoping that would be enough, but it wasn't. He latched onto me like a tick to a dog, and for the next 5 minutes I had to endure his non-stop chatter, not even pausing for a breather before someone else got a word in. I never liked Barry. He was a braggart, and a loud one at that. What's more, when he looked at me, he had a smirk on his face that tried to pass for a smile but wasn't. The guy definitely thought he was better than me, or knew something I didn't. We talked for a while, or rather, I listened for what seemed like an eternity. At the end, he asked me how Julie was doing and if she was wearing that little white bikini she had. No, I never liked that guy. Eventually, he left, and I continued talking to a few neighbors. The kids were playing in the pool. I poured myself another cold one, and everyone drifted into a relaxed Saturday afternoon. I realized she had arrived before I even saw her. They were heralded by my daughter's squeal. The baby jumped into my lap and gave me the biggest, wettest kiss, then said hello to all her friends. Daddy came in second, but that's okay. That's the way it's supposed to be when you're young and excited. The neighbors were used to the story by now, but still I saw their posture change slightly whenever they noticed my ex. She and her new husband attended most of the parties, so running into her had become a predictable part of life in this house. I wasn't in a hurry to go anywhere, so I pretended not to notice her and continued my conversation with my daughter. About half an hour had passed when I felt a hand on my arm. "Larry, it's good to see you. Julie's here?" I turned to greet my ex-wife, and with the best fake smile I was capable of, I replied, "Yes, she's here somewhere." I can't describe the way she looked at me. Was it an attempt to be pleasant, sadness, or concern? Maybe she was jealous? Who cares? Too bad if that's the case. I tried to be pleasant, but didn't encourage any conversation. "Well, if you see her, tell her I said hi." With those words, she turned and quietly walked away. It seemed strange, as there were still a few hours left of the party, but even after all these years, women were still a mystery to me, and I soon forgot about it. It's hard to describe my relationship with my ex. She seemed to want to be friends, but I didn't see the point. There was only pain there. She was constantly asking how I was feeling. Was it from a lack of words or as the beginning of a conversation that never happened? It didn't matter. She had already moved on. She had a new husband, and we were sharing parenting duties quite normally. That afternoon and evening, I saw Julie from time to time. She'd come in for a while, tell me the gossip she'd heard, and then leave again. When the music came on, we danced, and when one of the neighbors' wives asked me to dance, I accepted. This freed Julie from dancing with other men, which she always seemed to enjoy. No matter. What harm could come of all those families and kids? Besides, I trusted her. Late in the afternoon, as the sun set, the grill was turned off, and the party was slowly winding down, my ex sat down next to me. Great, I thought to myself. Now what? "Larry, can we talk?" She looked serious, and I can be such a pig sometimes. "Sure. I've done it many times. I've even seen you talk." She ignored my stupidity and calmly dropped her bombshell. "Larry, Bill and I are worried about you." That was something new. Wherever this was going, I didn't like it. "Why would you two be worried about me? You have your own lives. I have my own life. Things are getting better." Deb lowered her head for a moment, then continued. "We're worried about you. I want you to be happy." There was a laugh. "I am happy. You don't have to lose sleep over me." "You have to hand it to her. She never lost her temper. She stayed quiet and calm and took everything in stride." "Larry, we've seen a lot of things. When you're not looking, we notice things aren't right." I raised my voice, and the people around us turned around to look. "What do you mean?" She interrupted me without raising her voice. She always managed to do that. "Larry, please, I need to tell you something." I suppressed my irritation, pulled myself together, and asked, "Okay, what is it?" She looked at me and tried to find the right words. "Larry, don't be mad at me, but Julie can't be trusted." I held back my anger, but only barely. How dare this woman who didn't want to see me insult the one who did? She took my hand. Will you come with me, please? Just this once? Reluctantly, I nodded, stood up, and followed her. We walked through the house, out the front door, down the driveway, and headed towards the neighbor's house. It was Barry's house, as if I hadn't had enough of it for one night. As we approached the house, I saw Bill crouched at the side window. He waved at us and walked toward the front door. It was then that I noticed that both he and my ex were carrying cell phones. He gave me a sad look, nodded to my ex, and then opened the front door. I thought, why? Are we just going to walk into Barry's house uninvited? Yeah, that's what we did. Bill signaled me to be quiet by putting his finger to his lips as we walked silently down the hallway toward the master bedroom. It was another dagger to the heart. My ex was right. Julie couldn't be trusted. I know we weren't married, but after what I saw, I knew we would never be married. I was in shock and didn't notice as my ex put her arm around my waist and slowly led me back to the table. To Bill's credit, he was right next to us, but he had the good sense to take a few cell phone pictures first through the window and then through the bedroom door. They didn't even know we were there. We just came and went without making a sound. They say you never know who your friends are until you need them. This woman I had hated for so long, and her new husband brought me home and sat with me that night. When Julie called and asked where I was, Bill calmly sent her one of the pictures he had taken and told her presence was unwelcome. Of course, Julie ignored that advice and showed up at the house 10 minutes later. As rage swept over me, Bill grabbed my arm. However, he didn't hold back my ex, who walked up to Julie and gave her one of the best right punches to the nose I've ever seen. She then picked Julie up off the floor, pushed her towards the door, and literally kicked her out of the house. That is, she kicked her butt, causing Julie to fall to her hands and knees on the porch. Confusion was now added to the anger and pain I was feeling. This was the beginning of a long night that would eventually lead to the healing of many wounds. My ex-wife and her new husband would heal my wound of betrayal, and then, in time, we would heal the wound between us. This woman I loved and lost when we were both too young to know what love was will become my best friend again. And our relationship will take on a new depth, and I will eventually be forced to accept that she married well. Bill is a good guy, and he's right for her. It was time to let go of the anger and hurt. It took a while, but eventually I let go of the past and started building a new life. Eventually, I met the woman I was meant to build a life with, and to my amazement, she and my ex became close friends. I was truly stunned by Julie's betrayal, but I was even more surprised by the kindness shown to me by my ex-wife and her husband. Perhaps it's a good thing we can't see the future. I think if I could, I would run away from it and miss out on the greatest and sometimes most difficult gifts life has to offer. When Bill and my ex had children, they asked us to be their godparents. I didn't expect that to happen myself. I think sometimes we choose to leave the pain behind, and sometimes the pain is pulled out of our hearts by the strength of others. It seems I was destined to need the latter, and I am grateful for that. We are not meant to go through this life alone. We need the company of others to be whole. Step by step, with sadness and joy, we make our way through life. Only we can say whether the journey was worth the effort. For my part, I can say that it was. I, more than anyone else, know that when we open our hearts to others, we run the risk of experiencing the pain of betrayal and loss. And yet, if the reward is the love of a good woman and friends who care, I know that the risk is worth taking. The end. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.